All right, so we already know how to deal with asynchronous JavaScript when talking about promises and callbacks. Let me present you the promises example again. Just a very simple snippet. So function, do stuff, and as you remember, what we did a few minutes ago is I will remove these errors in the future. These are not even errors. It's just a bit annoying, right? So return new promise, and then that's what we've done before, right? Here we do whatever. So we can do console.log hello from do stuff one. Does anybody remember what else do we need to do here? Set, okay, yeah, of course, set timeout. So let's delay, right, the execution of this promise. Correct, Alex. Remember to resolve it eventually, yeah? So now we will just call do stuff one or do stuff, only one function. And what else do we have to type? .then, correct, then, and then we do whatever we want, right? Like console.log, all good, yeah, something like that. The time, all right, yeah, let's set some time, fantastic, 400 milliseconds, right? Cool, so will that work? Which message will be displayed first? The hello from, all right, so let me change the messaging. Apple, banana, and orange. So what's the execution, what are the execution order with the console log messages? First orange, so I cannot type here. All right, so you said orange, what else? Apple, and banana, that's right, yeah? That's the entire principle of execution order. I mean, let's see if that's right or not. Let's run it, see if it works. Oh yeah, it works, right? Cool, fantastic, well done VS Code. Let me try again. I mean, the entire point of coding is, if I run the same snippet 8 million times, it should return the same thing, right? Looks good. We are becoming friends quickly. All right, cool. Can I add breakpoints? I mean, once again, this is just experimental. I don't know if that will work. You see, it's a similar idea, right? You have a dot on the left, red dot. That means in theory, the code should stop when I go to this line. All right, cool, that's fantastic. You see, orange. And now how do we stop on the next line? Probably this button here, step over, maybe. It will go to the apple, right? No, it wasn't a step over. It was just play. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we click the play button again, and then it will stop on the next one, apple, and finally it should stop on the banana, right? There you go. And then it's over. Fantastic. Cool, it works, right? I think our mental health will appreciate that change. Cool.
Do we always need to write the set timeout in a
No,
promise?
well, no. You can do that, right? Set timeout is just to make the example a bit more explicit, like, hey, we got a function that takes a while. But that code is perfectly valid, right? Will that change the execution order at all?
Yeah.
Why?
Because JavaScript won't wait anymore to execute the first function, the do stuff function, so it will print first apple.
First apple. So you think that it will show first the apple, then what?
Then banana, and then orange.
Not at all. Do you remember what we discussed yesterday? Earlier on, whether that code will run synchronously or asynchronously? Can you give me the answer based on the output of the snippet? Is the code running synchronously or asynchronously? Asynchronously? Why asynchronously? Anita or Anita?
Because first it goes into the do stuff and it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't wait for the then part to be
Yeah.
executed. It
Yeah.
asynchronously completes printing out the orange
Mhm.
and then goes to then. I think.
Yeah, that example is a bit complicated. And to be honest, if I manage to explain what's going on here, it may ruin your energies. And so I'm not going to present, because this is a corner case where everything happens very quickly. So I don't want to explain that because I understand this is complicated enough. So you can ignore it. Let's focus on the obvious example, yeah? That's the obvious one. Because there is a delay, there is an obvious delay of 1 second. That's the case I want you to understand. I will be super happy if you understand this example and you don't get the other one. Yeah? In this obvious example, yeah, so the orange will be the first one. Let me run it again. Orange is the first one, yeah? Because do stuff calls a function, that function will take a while to resolve, but JavaScript won't stop here, pop, it will jump to the next line. So first of all, the orange, yeah? Then after how long? After 1 second, correct. Then we display the apple, and then immediately after we resolve the function, that means we return the control back here, and then we display the last fruit, the banana. Yeah, that's the way it works. Fish, you have to watch the workshop we recorded this morning to understand that, obviously. Cool. So, I mean, nothing new so far. This is just a recap of what we've done earlier on today. The reason why I presented you this example is because I would like now to introduce async await. So with async await, things get a bit simpler, more or less. No, not more or less, they're clearly simple. So for instance, let me get rid of timeouts, let me get rid of everything, yes? Do stuff. So if that function returns hello, I hope you agree with me, I can do console.log and then display do stuff. Yeah? So that should display hello, right? Yeah. But if in reality I want to return a promise with hello, based on what we've learned today, we will do return. Do you remember the syntax? You what? Promise. What else? Resolve. What else? No, I don't care about reject anymore. Arrow function. And then that? Are you sure? Resolve. Yeah, remember the syntax, guys. So how can we now display, that message here?
We call do stuff.
Correct, do stuff, and what else?
Dot. No dot.
Inside the parentheses, you put in a message if you want it, or greeting.
A message?
No, not a string.
A what?
Like literally the word.
The word? Which word?
Message. Or greeting the word.
Like that?
And now arrow function. Inside, yeah. And then you just put console.
Right, guys, I have an idea. Why don't you stop doing everything today? You stop conflicts, you stop training, and you by pairs rewatch the workshop, because that's not the way it works. Yeah? As you may understand, to me, it's a bit complicated to explain a new concept if the previous one is not clear. Here, you are mixing promises with callbacks. That's correct, yeah? So, not sure. I got the feeling this workshop is a bit pointless, because the idea is to explain something based on something else that you don't understand. So please, again, I don't care about conflicts. I don't care about the coding platform. I don't care about anything. I just care about async JavaScript, yeah? You won't get a job without being able to explain that example, something like that. Then message console.log message. Yeah, that thing should be immediate, because that's super easy. Yeah, you get a function, the function returns a promise, and then whenever the promise is resolved, we return a string, we return a message. So then we can do whatever we want with the message, like displaying it. Hello. Yeah. So that's super fundamental, guys. That's way more important than running a new task on Codeflix or doing a JavaScript training or whatever. Yeah, that's super important. So that's the way the promises work. But now, look at what can I do. I can do something super cool here. I can type the word async in front of the function name, and now I can do that. That's the same. You see how simpler the code got so quickly, yeah? These 3 lines of code are equivalent to just adding the async prefix and then returning something. Much simpler, yeah? In other words, adding the async prefix to any function makes the function to return immediately a promise. So that function, you may be thinking, the function is returning a string. Not at all. Not at all. The function doesn't return a string. The function, because of that prefix, returns a promise. And then it gets resolved to this string. In other words, that code should still work. Let me add some exclamation marks. That's it. Yeah, that's the same. Will it work without the async prefix? Why not? That's right, Alex. So look, do stuff now. What does it return now? Hello, a string, right? It returns a string. That's what you learned on the first day of the course, right? It returns a string. So string.then, that doesn't really make sense. String.then doesn't make sense. That's why that won't work. If I run it, it throws an error. You see? Error, do stuff, then is not a function, because do stuff returns a string. However, simply by adding the async prefix, everything changes internally. Okay? Everything changes. So now, suddenly, what is the function do stuff returning? That's right. Now it returns a promise. And that promise gets resolved to that message. So now, of course, we can capture it here. So if we run it again, hello, with 3 exclamation marks. Can you reject? Yes, you can reject, but I'm not going to explain that now. Yeah? There are many aspects we can solve here, guys, and I need to filter that a bit, otherwise it's going to be very overwhelming. So once again, return something with async is the same as explicitly returning a promise and resolving it. Do you agree with me? This syntax is easier than that one? Yeah? Cool. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing. Async. But there is a second keyword here, which is await. It's await. We introduced await literally 365 days ago, on the 29th of January 2019, in Shoreditch. We ran an event about modern JavaScript. And since then, I think that became very popular. So let me present you a slightly different problem. So I got my do stuff function, but I want to add another couple of functions. Function do stuff 1, return new promise. Yeah, once again, that's what we've done earlier on today. And here we resolve hello from stuff 1, or we can even ignore the message for now. Yeah, that's okay. That doesn't really matter. So do stuff 1, and then we got do stuff 2. Yeah, hello from do stuff 2. So now, from do stuff, I want to call them sequentially. First do stuff 1, then do stuff 2, right? So does anybody remember how we do that with promises? Do stuff 1, parentheses, dot then. Yep.
Parentheses.
Another parenthesis.
Arrow function. Do stuff
That makes sense to me. Because we are not doing any console.log. We are not displaying anything probably. Yeah, we are just resolving data. Obviously, we can capture these messages. Let's try to do that. Do stuff one. Can anybody tell me how can I do a console.log of this message here? After the first, where here?
No, the next one.
Here?
No, enter after the first curly braces and declare console.log.
Where? Here? Here?
After the first curly braces.
Here? Of what? I want to capture the first message.
It should be passed as an argument to do stuff one.
Should be passed as an argument of do stuff one. Do stuff one doesn't receive any argument.
Yeah,
So
so it should be on.
Inside the parentheses.
Which one?
Next to them.
Yeah.
Next to them.
So
Here?
the one- yeah, inside that you
Yeah.
can put your message.
That's correct, Alex. That's right. Do stuff one, then once do stuff one resolves, then we're sending that data, yeah, the message. Let's call it message one, for instance. Yeah,
And now maybe console log.
that's correct, Alex. Inside, yeah, then do stuff one set colon whatever. Yeah. So how do we now repeat the same thing with the do stuff two? I want to do the same thing. I want to capture the message. Dot then, that's correct, guys. Dot then, open parentheses. What else?
Message 2.
Yeah,
Arrow function after console log.
yeah, that's right. That's right, Florin. It's the same idea, right? Message 2. You see? Call the first function. Then, once it's over, capture the message returned by the first function. Display that message. At that time, now please call the second function. You see, we are keeping the order. We will only start calling do function 2 after function 1 is over. So once function 1 is over, then call function 2, and then it doesn't matter if it takes 1 millisecond or 1 hour. Once function 2 is over, then display the message associated to the function 2. Let me get rid of that message at the bottom. This is making everything more complicated. So let's see if it works. Yes. Yes, that works as expected. Can we add some breakpoints? So just to keep it simple. So can anybody tell me the execution order?
23.
So Anita, 23.
15.
So is 23:15? Are you happy with that or not? Is everybody lost? Why don't you answer, guys? Are you going to do the same thing in a job interview? Is the employer going to ask you something that you know and then you are going to remain on mute? Probably not, right? 15, what else? 16 and 18, yeah? So that's correct, that's correct. We start here. First of all, we trigger the snippet. So we come here, we do stuff one, we call do stuff one, and then, because that may take a while to resolve, once it's over, may not happen immediately, right? It may take a while, but it doesn't really matter. It will jump here, then straight it will stop here, and then once it's over, it will finally display that console log. Let's run it. Where are my breakpoints? Did it stop working? It's not displaying anything anymore, right?
It's not listening.
Ah,
Something. Yeah, so it's not actively working.
oh. So you see, breakpoints are not working anymore. This is the type of things I need to investigate. At least, even though the breakpoints are not working anymore, the output seems consistently working, right? Which is at least.
Have that upper console to press
Say it again.
You have the console to like play on each breakpoint, but it's disappearing instantly when you
Oh,
change.
yeah. I don't know what's going on. Once again, guys, this tool is still experimental. Yeah, the breakpoints are not working anymore, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. At least the execution is correct. Cool. So now here comes the huge change. That change is going to be massive, insane. Actually, to the point, I'm going to send you that piece of code on Slack so you can play with both snippets. So remember that code. Now I'm going to refactor it. You know, refactor means take a piece of code and transform it to something equivalent, but better. Better in terms of what? Performance, readability, whatever. Yeah, the code will look better afterwards. So, first of all, do you know how can we get rid of this promise-based syntax based on what we've learned before? Async, correct. What else?
Return hello from stop one.
Can I delete that? And same thing here, right? Async, return hello from staff2. And now that's okay. I hope you agree with me. That has helped a lot to simplify my code. Fantastic. But now the big change comes here. Just keep that in mind because we're going to simplify that a lot. Look, let me keep that commented for now. Look at that's the most beautiful thing you've seen in your life from a coding point of view. That's it. Yeah, hope you agree with me. That code is way more readable than that code. Yeah, if you want to keep that completely correct, let's do the console log literally after you got it. Yeah. So it's very readable actually. Look, await means wait there. Don't move anymore. Do you remember before I told you JavaScript is not waiting? Yeah. Now it is waiting. By the first time ever, JavaScript waits. So wait there until do stuff one function is over. It may take 10 minutes. That's okay. JavaScript will wait. Nothing else will happen. Once do stuff one is resolved, then save the outcome, save the output into this variable so we can do whatever we want. And likewise, call do function 2, wait, it will return a promise, so wait there, wait a while, and once function 2 is over, save the value here, and then display it. So now if I run it again, nothing should change. Here you go. You see, it's the same result, but the code is much more beautiful. You don't have to deal with callback functions, with then, with weird indentation, nothing. It's like writing, by the first time, we can write asynchronous JavaScript, follow synchronous style, yeah? Because that's the way you will rather create basic JavaScript. Call a function, then you call another function. You don't deal with callbacks or anything like that.
So we need to write and order the dependency. For example, second function is dependent on first function.
Well,
So
that's fine because you got message one. So if you need that, you can I do that? Can I pass the message one as a parameter of the second one? Yes, of course. I can pass it here if I want, right? At the end of the day, now, visually speaking, you don't know if this is synchronous or asynchronous. You know that you call a function, and then once the function is over, regardless of how long it takes, then you move on. That's all you know.
How do you set timer
Hmm?
to any of those settings?
That's a good question. That's a good question. That's a good question. We easily added async because we immediately return something. But what Rochelle is asking is what happens if do stuff one takes half a second? In that case, I'm afraid you cannot do that. So you can only use async if you want to return something immediately. If you want to wait, We need to go back to the old school. Old school, return new promise, resolve, and then set timeout, wait half a second, and finally what? Resolve, that's correct, Anita. Resolve hello from staff one. So in regards to this function, we unfortunately have to go back to the promise approach. However, excuse me, thankfully, that code is still valid. That's the beautifulness, because at the end of the day, to me, the main complexity is not here, because that's just a single function. The main complexity sits on orchestrating the multiple asynchronous functions. Yeah? And that's why, using await, we can keep that code, the high level, the entry point of your asynchronicity hell, we can keep it super simple.
The wait period with that is only relevant to what's inside the function. So if where you've invoked it at the bottom, do stuff. If you had a console log under that,
Here?
yeah, would it be asynchronous to that?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I'll give you an answer. It's a good question. What is do staff one returning? That's right. You see? It's written a promise. In other words, remember, if you return a promise, you cannot guarantee the execution order that easily. So, if you really, really, really want that message to be displayed after all the messages, we need to do something else. Let's see what happened now. Look, if I run it again, that's wrong, right? That's not what we wanted. That's correct, first one and then two, but the hello from the bottom runs before. We are not guaranteeing, we are not controlling the execution order. So how can we force that console log, the last one, to be executed at the end?
This is the promise give you then?
Yes, you can do that. Because do stuff returns a promise, you can do that, right? Will that work? Let's have a look. You see?
You're conditioning that to be pushed to the end pretty much with that.
Yeah.
That's right.
You may be thinking, can I mean, here we got rid of .then, yeah? So can we do the same thing here? Can I do something as sexy as that? It makes sense, right? If you think about it, like, hey, call that function, wait, and once it's over, continue. However, this won't work. That's the only case where that won't work. And let me show you why. That should throw an error. Yes. Look at the error. Look. Await, you see? Do stuff. Syntax error. Await is only valid in async function.
That's a promise.
Yes, it worked here because we added async here. However, what is the parent function? Do we have any parent function here? Not at all. Yeah? That's why when you are creating a function outside of everything, yeah, this is like the root function of your snippet, you cannot do that. You are not likely to have that problem when working with React, because with React, you are always working with a component, stateless, stateful, so you always have a parent function, yeah? So you will always be able to do that. But in this particular exotic, extreme case, you cannot use await, yeah? And then the error, at least, is very descriptive. If you want to use await, fine, but whenever that piece of code is the parent function, this one, needs the async. That's a limitation in modern JavaScript. JavaScript needs that because of whatever reason. Okay? So yes, you cannot do that, unfortunately, but of course, even though it's not that sexy, you can still control the synchronicity of your code by resolving the promise manually. So if we do that, yes, then it works fine. Will it actually work if I remove the async?
No.
There are two problems now. Can you tell me one of those two problems?
Your weight doesn't mean anything.
Correct. The first issue is AAA. Once again, if you want to use a wait, you need to add the async prefix. Can you see any other problem?
Your function's not returning a promise anymore and you've got dot then.
That's correct, Alex. Now, what is do stuff function returning?
Just
It's not returning anything. It's not returning.
Do you see any return statement?
no.
I don't see any return. If there is any return statement, I need to make an appointment with the optician today because I don't see any return statement. Do stuff function doesn't return anything. Undefined. So then what happened here? Undefined dot something that will blow up, right? So there are two problems. First of all, missing async, and then as a side effect, undefined dot then. Yeah, so that won't work for sure. So if I run it, so first of all, JavaScript statically realized that we need to add async. So now our function is returning a promise, and because it's returning a promise, by fixing this problem, we've already fixed the other problem. So now that should work like a charm. Here we go. Questions? Nothing? How can you pass an argument after a wait? Where, here? You want to pass an argument. All right, so I can pass Andrea. So now, this is just basic JavaScript, right? So I go to do stuff one, and I got your name. So I can do plus name, right? So that should be...
Sorry, I mean, if I return a promise because it's async,
Yes.
I want to return
Okay.
also log message.
You want to return something here?
Yes.
Okay. So how can we display that message?
So I'm not returning anymore a promise.
No, that's not right. We explained before that what is that code returning? What type of data this code returns? A promise. It doesn't return a string. It returns a promise. Whenever the promise is resolved, it sends back a string. So now, what is that function returning? What type of data? A promise, that's correct. It returns a promise. And whenever the promise is resolved, it sends a string. So can anybody tell me how can I display this piece of code, this string here? That's correct. Here, then, once do stuff is over, I will get that message. So I can do, let me get rid of the other Andrea because there are too many Andreas here and this is going to make the code a bit harder to read. So now that should display hello from staff 1, then hello from staff 2, and then hello from the bottom, comma, hello Andrea. Yeah, let's see if that works or not. Yes. The important thing to note here is classic job interview question. Not classic, that's a new thing, but it will become an instant classic, yeah? Instant classic job interview question. What is do staff returning? I use a string, and they will say, thank you for not coming, right? Good luck in life, right? It's not return a string. It's not return a string because of that keyword. Async is changing the rules by the first time in history. Yeah? In the past, without async, if you return an object, it's an object. If you return a string, it's a string. But now, that changes. Now, async returns a promise. And whenever the promise is resolved, here the promise is resolved, then we'll send the message to whoever called the promise. So we can do whatever we want with the message.
You can promise return different types of data, which is strings.
So Alex wants to return that.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? Does it make sense? Now, instead of a string, we are returning an object. Of course that makes sense, guys. It's just JavaScript, yeah? You can return whatever you want. So if I run it, boom. Super powerful, right? Any questions? No? All right, so let's recap quickly. So we've seen between yesterday and today 3 different ways of dealing asynchronous JavaScript. First of all, callbacks, that's the classic way. Yeah? Callbacks are not that popular anymore, at least in the front end. In the back end, you may find callbacks in different places. Actually, we talked about callbacks in the back end. Do you remember when we did routing? If you remember, we did something like that. App.get, rest fruits, do you remember that example? And look, what I'm typing here. You see that? That's a callback function. What we did last week, oh, come on. I don't want this mess, rest.send, and then Apple, whatever. Yeah? So that's a callback function, call back. Why? Because the way we read that is whenever the user from the front end wants to get the list of fruits, he will do fetch to the back end, and then at that time, then we will send that call. It's something that will run in the future at some point.
Even set timeout is callback.
Say it again?
Set timeout is also a callback.
That's correct, Anita. Set timeout. That is a callback function. Why? Because JavaScript internally will call that function after half a second. So a callback function is a function that gets called at some point, whenever, yeah? At some point in the future. So that's a callback function. That's a callback function. Yeah? So these are about callbacks. Callbacks are very popular when talking about higher order functions. We'll do a workshop on the next week to explain higher order functions. But for now, just bear in mind that callbacks are still relevant today, even though they are getting less and less popular. Then yesterday we also this morning we also talked about promises, which present a slightly better, clearly a better way of handling asynchronous code. If you have a basic example like this one, you may not find promises that convenient. You may not see the advantage. However, if you try to build a complex example with 10 functions, do stuff 1, do stuff 2, do stuff 3, do stuff 4, blah, 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 do stuff 10, eventually you will see that promises scale better. From a readability point of view, the code is easier to read. Yeah? However, with promises, we still have the problem of dealing with it .then. And even though that's better than dealing with callbacks, they are not ideal. That's why, thankfully, we now have async await. So with async await, by the first time, we can force, this is a bit bold, it's not the way it works, but to keep the story simple, we can tell JavaScript to really wait until a function is over before moving on to the next line. Yeah? Just remember, if you add the async prefix, the function returns a promise. Regardless of what you write here, it returns a promise. And then, if you want to use await, you should also have async. In other words, you can use async without await. That's a good example. Yeah, there is async, but there is no await. But you cannot use await without async. Anything else? No?
So when we are in a real life situation, should we prefer to use async await?
Well, if you got the freedom, that will depend on the company. Yeah, if you're in a company and they are not very opinionated, they may be using callbacks. If I were you, I will invite them. Oh, you're using callbacks. What if we try this new technique? They will appreciate these things. Yeah? Don't forget, many companies, they work with very senior devs. But you know, when you are working on a real piece of software, you may not be up to date with the new trends of coding. So working with someone very good doesn't imply he knows everything, or he knows at least. I'm sure if he's really good, he knows callbacks, but he may not know async await. I didn't know async await 1 year ago, right? So definitely feel free to invite the company to move to these things. Be polite, guys. Be polite. There is nothing worse than a junior developer telling that you are doing the things wrong, right? So be polite. It's good to propose. It's good to expose, you know that, but don't blame the code. Oh, who did that? Fire that person. Callbacks. No, that code has been there maybe for 5 years. At that time, maybe callbacks were the only option to deal with asynchronous code. Yeah? And watch these 3 workshops until your eyes start bleeding through your face. Thank you, guys.